Picture this. It's a nasty February morning. The wind is howling. There's a mix of sleet and snow coming down sideways, and every sane person is inside by a fire with a cup of coffee. But you're out on the water getting ready to make a cast. Are you crazy? Or are you the smartest angler on the lake? Today, we're talking about why the absolute worst weather imaginable is often the best time to catch the fish of a lifetime. I'm going to show you why that beautiful, calm, sunny winter day you've been waiting for is actually a complete waste of your time. And the reason so many people get skunked in the winter has nothing to do with their lure or their location. It has to do with a simple misunderstanding of the weather. So let me ask you, would you rather be comfortable and catch nothing, or be miserable for a few hours and have the day of your life? And let's get into it. For generations, we've been fed the same advice. Your grandpa probably told you, the old magazines definitely told you, and your own instincts scream it at you. Wait for a nice day to go fishing. It just makes sense, right? We want to be comfortable. We associate good, calm weather with good times, and so we plan our fishing trips around our own comfort. We look at the forecast, see that one sunny day with light winds wedged between two miserable-looking storms, and we say, that's the day. We've been conditioned to think that what's pleasant for us must be pleasant for the fish. But fish don't care about our comfort. They live in a completely different world, one that's governed by pressure, oxygen levels, and instinct. And the very conditions that send us running for cover are the ones that flip the dinner switch for them. It's time to break that old habit of fishing for our convenience and start fishing for their aggression. First, let's tear down the biggest lie in winter fishing, the perfect sunny day. You know exactly the one I'm talking about. The sky is that piercing, brilliant blue. There's not a breath of wind, and the sun actually feels warm on your face. It feels incredible to be outside. Every fiber of your being tells you this is a fishy day. But think back, how many times have you actually gone out on a day like that and done well? More often than not, you spend 6 hours casting, changing lures, moving spots, and you're met with absolute silence. And this isn't just a string of bad luck. That beautiful day is a trap, and it's caused by a high-pressure weather system. For a fish, that high-pressure system feels like someone is standing on its back. It puts immense pressure on their sensitive swim bladders, making them uncomfortable, inactive, and glued to the bottom. They have absolutely zero interest in feeding. So while you're enjoying the scenery, the fish are in a terrible mood, just waiting for things to change. So if high pressure is the enemy, then what's our friend? It's all about the barometer. The single most important factor for winter fishing is barometric pressure, and specifically a falling barometer. Imagine a fish's swim bladder like a small balloon inside its body. When the atmospheric pressure is high, it squeezes that balloon, creating discomfort. But when a storm system approaches, the atmospheric pressure drops. For the fish, this is like a weight being lifted off their shoulders. The pressure on their swim bladder eases, and they suddenly feel much more comfortable. They can move up and down in the water column with less effort. This physical relief makes them feel good, and when they feel good, they get active and they get hungry. If you learn to watch nothing else on the weather forecast, learn to watch the barometric pressure chart. A steady or rising barometer is a red flag. A falling barometer is a massive green light telling you to get on the water immediately. Now let's talk about timing. The absolute best window to fish is during what I call the pre-front gold rush. This is the period of a few hours, or sometimes even a full day, right before a big storm system hits. The barometer is in a free fall, the sky is getting dark and cloudy, and the wind is starting to pick up. Fish have an incredible instinctual ability to sense these changes. They know that conditions are about to get turbulent and that feeding might be difficult for the next day or two. So what do? They go on a feeding binge. It's nature's version of last call at the bar. They try to pack in as many calories as they can before they have to hunker down and ride out the storm. If you can time your trip to be on the water during this prefrontal window, you will often experience the most aggressive, most concentrated bite of the entire season. The fish are actively hunting and are far less picky than usual. The reason that low pressure is a green light goes beyond just comfort. It fundamentally changes the entire underwater ecosystem for a short period. That dropping pressure, the wind, the clouds, it all works in favor of the predator. Bass, walleye, pike, and other predators are hardwired to use these conditions to their advantage. They know that the changing weather will disorient baitfish and make them more vulnerable. They know that the low light will conceal their presence, allowing them to ambush prey more effectively. So when that pressure starts to drop, it's not just a signal that they can feed, it's a signal that it's the easiest time to feed. They can get a big meal with minimal energy expenditure. This is a critical survival instinct. In the cold water of winter, conserving energy is everything. A nasty weather day provides the perfect, low-risk, high-reward feeding opportunity they've been waiting for. To really understand this, you have to stop thinking like a human and start thinking like a baitfish. For a little shiner or a shad, a calm, sunny day is relatively safe. They can see predators coming from a long way off, and the water is stable. But when a storm front moves in, their world is turned upside down. The wind starts pushing the surface water, creating currents they're not used to. The waves and choppy water make it harder for them to see. They get blown off their normal structures and pushed into concentrated schools along windblown banks, points, and funnels. They are stressed, confused, and completely vulnerable. And where the baitfish go, the big fish follow. The predators know that the storm is basically corralling their food for them into predictable areas. The buffet is officially open, and they are ready to eat. This brings us to one of the most misunderstood elements, the wind. Most anglers hate the wind. It makes boat control difficult, it makes casting a pain, and it's just plain uncomfortable, so we actively avoid it. But in the winter, the wind is your absolute best friend. You should never be fishing on the calm side of the lake. You need to be right in it. That wind is a giant engine creating current. This current stirs up sediment on the bottom, dislodging microorganisms which attracts baitfish. The current then pushes those baitfish and the warmer surface water against a bank or a piece of structure. This creates a strike zone where the water is a degree or two warmer, slightly more stained, and absolutely full of disoriented bait. The predator fish will sit just on the edge of that current, waiting for an easy meal to be delivered right to their mouths. Fighting the wind is a small price to pay for being in the exact spot where every fish in the area has come to feed. Let's talk about the clouds. An overcast sky is a non-negotiable component of a great winter fishing day. Predatory fish, especially big, mature ones, are naturally wary of bright, sunny conditions. Their eyes are designed for low-light hunting, and a bright sky makes them feel exposed and vulnerable, like they're standing under a spotlight. They will retreat to the deepest, darkest cover they can find and will not venture out. But when the clouds roll in, it's like someone dimmed the lights in the entire lake. That cloud cover diffuses the sunlight, creating a veil of security for the fish. They feel safer, and that confidence means they will leave their cover and roam more freely in search of a meal. They'll move shallower, they'll suspend higher. In the water column, the strike zone effectively gets bigger, simply because the fish feel more comfortable being out in the open. A dark, gloomy sky should be a beautiful sight to a winter angler. And what's even better than a dark, overcast sky? Snow. A steady snowfall is one of the best things that can happen during your fishing trip. Many people see snow and immediately pack it in, but that's a huge mistake. Snow acts as an even more powerful light diffuser than clouds. It creates a ceiling on the world that makes the underwater environment very dark and gives predators the ultimate sense of security. I've had some of my best winter days for bass and pike in the middle of a near whiteout snowstorm. The snow also has a slight insulating effect on the water's surface, and the silence that accompanies a heavy snowfall can be a calming factor. Fish get incredibly bold in the snow. They will move shockingly shallow and will absolutely crush a slow-moving bait that comes wobbling by. If the forecast calls for snow, you shouldn't cancel your trip. You should be getting your gear ready. Now, none of this matters if you're not prepared. Let's be honest, your gear is probably holding you back from capitalizing on these days. You can't fish effectively if you're miserable and frozen. If your hands are too cold to tie a knot or your feet are numb, you're not focused on your presentation. You're focused on getting back to the truck. And this isn't about being tough. It's about being smart. Dressing in layers is absolutely crucial. A moisture-wicking base layer, a fleece or wool mid-layer, and a completely waterproof and windproof outer shell are not optional. Good quality waterproof gloves, a warm hat, and insulated waterproof boots are the most important investments you can make for winter fishing. When you're warm, dry, and comfortable, you can focus 100% of your mental energy on finding and catching fish. It turns a miserable experience into a strategic advantage. When the weather is nasty, your lure selection needs to change dramatically. This is not the time for fast-moving, aggressive reaction baits. Remember, even though the fish are actively feeding, the water is still very cold. Their metabolism is slow, and they are not willing to chase something down over a long distance. You need to be thinking low and slow. Suspending jerkbaits are phenomenal because you can get them down to a certain depth and just let them sit there, motionless, in the fish's face. Slow rolling a spinnerbait or a bladed jig can also be effective, but the absolute king of cold, nasty weather is often the simple jig. A football jig or a finesse jig dragged painstakingly slowly across the bottom perfectly mimics a crawfish or a struggling baitfish. The key is patience. You want your bait in the strike zone for as long as humanly possible. Along with lure choice, you have to adjust your color selection for these dark, dreary days. On a sunny day in clear water, natural, subtle colors are often the best choice. Things that look like a real shad or a real bluegill. But when you have cloud cover, wind-chopped water, and maybe even some runoff making the water murky, those subtle colors become completely invisible. You need to do the opposite. You want loud, obnoxious, highly visible colors that the fish can see from a distance. Think chartreuse, bright orange, hot pink, or a stark black and blue combination. The goal isn't to perfectly match the hatch. The goal is to present a target that stands out against the dark, murky background. You want a fish to see that flash of color from 10 feet away and react to it. Don't be afraid to use colors that look completely unnatural. In bad weather, unnatural gets noticed. Let me give you a real-life example to put this all together. A few years back, we had a February nor'easter rolling in. The forecast was for winds gusting to 30 miles per hour, heavy, wet snow, and temperatures hovering right at the freezing mark. Everyone I knew said I was a complete idiot for even thinking about launching the boat. I got to the lake, and the parking lot was empty. It was brutal. The wind was howling, and the snow was coming down so hard you could barely see the other side of the cove. But the barometer had dropped like a stone over the last 12 hours. I bundled up, headed to a wind-blown point, and started slowly working a suspending jerkbait. On the third cast, a 5-pound largemouth just about ripped the rod out of my hands. For the next 3 hours, in the absolute worst weather I have ever fished in, I had one of the best days of my life. The fish were stacked on that point and they were angry. That day proved to me beyond any doubt that the theory was true. Even in these perfect storm conditions, the fish won't be scattered randomly all over the lake. They will still relate to specific types of structure and cover, but they will be concentrated in predictable comfort zones. They are looking for two things: a food source and a slight break from the absolute worst of the conditions. A windblown main lake point is a classic example because the current pins the baitfish there. The down current side of a bridge piling or a large laydown tree can also be a magnet. These spots provide a slight buffer from the current, allowing a predator to sit and wait in ambush mode without expending much energy. Another key thing to look for is a hard bottom area, like rock or gravel adjacent to deep water. These hard bottom areas retain a little more heat from the sun on previous days and can be a degree or two warmer, which is a huge deal in the winter. Find these subtle sweet spots, and you'll often find a whole school of fish ready to bite. We need to completely debunk the myth that fish just don't bite in the cold. It's simply not true. Fish are cold-blooded, yes, which means their metabolism slows down significantly in cold water, but it doesn't drop to zero. They still have to eat to survive. They just become much more selective about when and how they expend the energy to do so. They aren't going to waste energy chasing a meal on a bright, sunny, high-pressure day when they feel uncomfortable. But when a low-pressure system rolls in and presents them with a perfect opportunity, a buffet of disoriented baitfish in a low-light environment, their predatory instincts take over completely. They know this is their best chance to get a big, easy meal. The bad weather doesn't stop them from biting. It's the very thing that triggers them to bite. They are opportunistic predators, and a storm is the ultimate opportunity. Honestly, the biggest challenge in all of this isn't figuring out the science or picking the right lure. The hardest part is the mental game. It's about overcoming that powerful, primal urge to stay home where it's warm and safe. When you look out the window and see a miserable, grey, windy day, your brain tells you to stay on the couch. Every part of you wants to just wait for a nicer day. Pushing through that mental barrier is the key. You have to trust the science and have the discipline to get out the door. The reward for doing what 99% of other anglers won't do is incredible. You get to have the entire lake to yourself. There's no boat traffic, no one fishing your best spots. It's just you, the elements, and a population of aggressive, unpressured fish. The first bite on a day like that makes it all worth it. Now, it's critical to understand that this is not about being reckless. Fishing in severe weather requires a deep respect for Mother Nature and a commitment to safety above all else. Your number one piece of equipment is a high-quality personal flotation device, or PFD, and you should be wearing it at all times. Cold water is incredibly dangerous, and if you fall in, you have only minutes before hypothermia sets in. Always, always tell someone exactly where you are going and when you plan to be back. Check your boat and your equipment thoroughly before you leave. Make sure your batteries are fully charged and your motor is reliable. Keep an eye on the forecast constantly, and if the conditions get truly dangerous, like lightning or winds that are too high for your boat to handle, you have to have the discipline to call it a day. No fish is worth your life. Be smart, be prepared, and stay safe. To put this into practice, you need to learn to read a weather app like a pro. Most people just glance at the temperature and the little sun or cloud icon. You need to ignore that. The first thing you should look for is the barometric pressure chart. Is it trending up, down, or is it stable? You are looking for a downward trend. Next, look at the wind. What is the speed and direction? A steady wind of 10 to 20 miles per hour is often perfect. You can use that wind direction to predict which banks and points will have baitfish pushed up against them. Then look at the cloud cover forecast. You want to see overcast or mostly cloudy for the entire day, if possible. Finally, look at the precipitation. Rain or snow is a bonus. When you see all these factors aligning, falling pressure, wind and clouds, that's the day you circle on your calendar. That's the day you call in sick to work. Just as important as knowing when to go is knowing when not to go. The day after the storm is often just as bad, if not worse, than the bluebird sunny day. This is the post-front shutdown. After the storm front passes, a high-pressure system almost always moves in behind it. The sky clears up, the wind dies down, and it looks like a beautiful day again, but the barometer will be rising sharply. This has the exact opposite effect on the fish. After feeding heavily before the storm, and now feeling the squeeze of the high pressure, they become completely inactive. They will often suspend or bury themselves in the thickest cover they can find, and will not bite for anything. This is the bluebird sky curse that frustrates so many anglers. They see the beautiful weather after a storm and think the fishing will be great, only to find the bite is completely dead. Recognizing these post-front conditions will save you from a lot of fruitless, frustrating days on the water. So let's build the perfect storm scenario. Let's say you're looking at the forecast for the upcoming week. You see a stable, high-pressure system for Monday and Tuesday. You ignore those days, but then you see that on Wednesday afternoon, the pressure is forecast to start dropping. The wind is predicted to pick up out of the southwest at 15 to 20 miles per hour, and the sky is going to turn overcast with snow developing late in the evening. That right there is your signal. That is the day. You should plan to be on the water from noon on Wednesday until dark. You will target points and banks on the northeast side of the lake, the ones getting hit directly by that southwest wind. You'll have your suspending jerkbaits and your jigs tied on, and you will fish with extreme confidence, knowing that you are there during the prime feeding window. This is how you stop guessing and start planning for success. Ultimately, this requires a complete shift in how you look at your fishing calendar. For most of your life, you've probably looked for the warm, sunny, comfortable days. From now on, I want you to do the opposite. I want you to scan the forecast and look for the garbage. Look for the approaching storms, the low-pressure systems, the cloudy, windy, snowy days that make everyone else groan. Those are your new perfect days. Your new fishing calendar is no longer marked with sunshine. It's marked with incoming weather fronts. When you start planning your trips around the fish's behavior instead of your own comfort, you will unlock a level of winter fishing that you never thought was possible. You will have banner days while everyone else is at home complaining that the fish aren't biting. You're not waiting for a window of good weather anymore. You're waiting for a window of great fishing. So, what's the biggest takeaway from all of this? It's simple. Stop fishing by the human comfort calendar and start fishing by the fish's feeding calendar. The single most pivotal moment in my winter fishing career was realizing that the days I dreaded the most from a comfort standpoint were the days the fish were most active. That ugly, grey, windy, snowy day isn't an obstacle, it's the entire opportunity. It's the trigger, the dropping barometer, the low light, and the wind stacking up bait fish create a perfect storm of conditions that force predators to feed. By embracing this, by gearing up properly and heading out when everyone else stays home, you completely remove yourself from the competition and put yourself in the middle of the best bite of the season. This one shift in mindset will have you catching fish in February when others can't buy a bite. Thank you so much for watching. If this changed how you think about winter fishing, hit that like button and be sure to subscribe for more content that breaks the old rules. And now I have to ask you, what's the absolute worst, most miserable weather you've ever fished in? And was it worth it? Let me know in the comments below.